In the NBA, more than any other team sport, one superstar can carry the whole squad and decide if they win or lose every night. In basketball, one guy can dominate the scoring again and again down the court. Yes, he needs teammates, but the balance of contribution is way more one-sided here. That brings us to today's video where we're breaking down all 30 NBA teams, picking their best player, and ranking them to see how strong each number one option really is. But before we start, a lot of you watching this still aren't subscribed to the channel. If you actually enjoy the content, hit the subscribe button, it really helps and we'd appreciate it. Anyway, let's get into it. Starting at the bottom and moving up to number 1, we have Zach LaVine of the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls are a painfully average team with no real leader right now. LaVine tried to take over late last season, especially in the play-in tournament, but it wasn't enough to prove he's that guy. LaVine was putting up almost a triple-double in the last month and a half of the season. But until he proves he can keep that up all year, he stays ranked as the weakest best player in the league. At number 29, we've got Kyle Kuzma of the Washington Wizards.
The worst of
Since
the players
Wizards are in
that are
full
technically
rebuild
their
mode,
team,
with young guys still years away from being legit stars,
season,
Kuzma ends up being their top option by default.
Next to number 29, we have CJ McCollum of the Washington Wizards.
But he's not exactly
As a rebuilding
a
team, the
leader
Wizards have
and
a
feels more
lot
like a
of young
placeholder
talent
than a
that are
franchise
probably a
cornerstone.
few years
Next,
away
at
from
number
actually
28
budding as high-level
Cam
players,
Thomas
so
of the Brooklyn
McCollum
Nets.
almost comes
Thomas
in
is one of the most debated players
He still
in the
averaged
NBA.
about 21 points per
A
game
gifted
last
scorer
season,
who
but
makes
he
insane
has
shots
clearly
most guys
lost a
wouldn't even
step
try,
and has now
and he's
been
fearless
thrust
about
into
it.
more
But
of a
on the
veteran
downside,
mentorship role
he's
than
a ball
anything
hog
else.
who chucks up
Next to
terrible
number
looks when
28,
they're not
we have
falling.
Cam Thomas
He
of the
plays little
Brooklyn
to no
Nets.
defense,
Thomas is
and
one
most
of the
people
most
don't buy
heavily
into the
debated
idea that his
talents in the
style
league
of
right now
basketball
as
can
an
actually carry a winning
undeniably
team.
talented
At
scorer
number
who
27,
takes
we
and
have
makes
Lauri
shots that
Markkanen
on the
of
flip
the
side,
Utah
he
Jazz.
can definitely
Markkanen
be a
made
bit
the
of a ball
All-Star team
hog
2 years
the
ago.
toughest players
But
couldn't
since
even
then, he
dream of
slipped back
taking,
toward the
and the
player he
confidence
used to
to
be
stack
before
up
his
with
Utah
anyone.
breakout.
But on the
Last season, he dealt with nagging injuries, and when he did play, he averaged about 19 points on shaky efficiency. Still, when healthy, he's a 7-footer who can score from anywhere, which makes him dangerous even if he's inconsistent. At number 26, we've got Damian Lillard of the Portland Trail Blazers. Lillard has been one of the best point guards of the last decade, but now at 35 and coming off a torn Achilles, it's hard to believe he'll ever look like Dame time again. Sure, his return to Portland is a feel-good ending since that's the team he wanted to retire with, but the truth is he'll probably miss the whole year, and when he's back, he's likely just a shadow of the player he was. At number 25, we have LaMelo Ball of the Charlotte Hornets. LaMelo has crazy talent, but every season that goes by makes it tougher to defend him as a legit franchise centerpiece. The Hornets remain one of the NBA's biggest messes, and his leadership hasn't changed that. The Hornets are one of the NBA's most disappointing teams every single year. Ball's scoring numbers might be climbing, but that's only because he chucks up the second most shots per game in the league. His efficiency keeps dropping, his defense is basically non-existent, and he can't stay healthy long enough to deserve a higher ranking, even though he's got the natural talent to score from anywhere and make flashy passes most guys can't. At number 24, we have Bam Adebayo of the Miami Heat. Bam isn't Miami's top scorer, but he's easily their best overall player. He's been one of the league's most complete defenders for the last 6 years, and it's honestly wild that he hasn't won a Defensive Player of the Year yet. But offensively, he's been a letdown. His lack of growth as a shot creator or floor spacer holds him back, and while averaging 18 to 19 points a night is fine, it's nowhere near what people thought he could do at his peak. At number 23, we've got Zion Williamson of the New Orleans Pelicans. Zion is still the best player on that team, but his career has been defined by hype, injuries, and constant questions about his commitment. Zion is still the Pelicans' top guy for now, but that won't last if he doesn't start taking care of himself and actually playing winning basketball. His time in New Orleans has had some exciting highlights, but overall it's been a disappointment compared to the insane hype he had coming into the league. Sure, his inside scoring is elite, but that alone doesn't make him the superstar people expected. His constant injuries make it hard to believe he'll ever reach that level. At number 22, we have Scottie Barnes of the Toronto Raptors. The 2022 Rookie of the Year already has an All-Star nod, but this season he clearly regressed during a forgettable year for Toronto. His defense is still nearly elite, but as a scorer, he's been exposed. Teams know he's not comfortable shooting from outside, so they clog the paint and kill his efficiency. Next at number 21, we've got Ja Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies. Morant has proven he can play at a higher level than this, but after an injury-filled and suspension-plagued year 2 seasons ago, he followed that up with another underwhelming campaign that left doubts about his future as a true franchise leader. So now Morant has to actually prove he can get back to his 2022 level before anyone assumes he still has it. He's still one of the most electrifying athletes in the league and unstoppable in transition, but he's never been a good three-point shooter, and he hasn't led the Grizzlies on any real playoff run yet. At number 20, we have Domantas Sabonis of the Sacramento Kings. Sabonis is a strange case because his stats are insane on paper, and his skill set as a playmaking center is elite, but he hasn't shown he can be the true centerpiece of a playoff team. He might be the league's best rebounder, racks up 6 assists per game, and scores around 19 points a night, but his defense is so shaky that it's hard to trust him, especially since centers are supposed to be the defensive anchor. At number 19, we've got Kawhi Leonard of the Los Angeles Clippers. Kawhi's body has been falling apart for years now, but when he's actually healthy, he's still the Clippers' best player. And in the clutch, he can still look like the guy who once carried a team to a title.
With the Hawks retooling after a strong offseason, don't be shocked if Trae pushes them back near the top of the East this year. At number 16, we've got Victor Wembanyama of the San Antonio Spurs. Wemby has the talent and upside to someday be number 1 on this list, but right now he hasn't earned it. He's already the best shot blocker in the league and could have easily won Defensive Player of the Year last season, but his year was cut short by a scary blood clot issue. The sample size just isn't there yet. If he stays healthy and drags the Spurs into the playoffs this season, though, the sky's the limit. At number 15, we have Devin Booker of the Phoenix Suns. Booker has been the face of Phoenix for years. He's lived through the bottom, almost reached the top in the 2021 finals, and now he's stuck leading them through another down cycle. He's played every guard role possible on and off the ball and embraced it. But after last year's disaster where his shooting dipped and the Suns flamed out, he needs a major bounce-back season if he wants to climb back up these rankings. At number 14, we've got Cade Cunningham of the Detroit Pistons. Cade looks like he's about to make the jump into superstardom, and if he can carry what he did last year into a playoff run, he could even be in the conversation as the best point guard in the East. But right now, his impressive numbers come with way too many turnovers, and he doesn't have the resume or consistency to stack up with the real superstars yet. At number 13, we have Donovan Mitchell of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Mitchell's year was a bit strange. He was still the leader of a team that grabbed the number 1 seed in the East, but he actually had one of his worst scoring seasons in the last 5 years. He's still a proven playoff killer who makes tough shots in clutch moments, but he just isn't producing at the level of the true elite number 1 options in the league, which is why he just misses the top 10. At number 12, we've got Anthony Davis of the Los Angeles Lakers. Like Bam Adebayo earlier, Davis is one of the best defenders in the NBA who still doesn't have a Defensive Player of the Year award, even though his dominance on that end has been undeniable. And unlike Adebayo, Davis actually has a polished offensive game. When he's on the court, he's a monster on both ends, but he's always looked more comfortable as a number 2 option rather than carrying a team as the main guy. The pressure on him is unfair at times, especially with fans acting like he hasn't lived up to the price the Lakers paid to pair him with LeBron. At number 11, we've got Joel Embiid of the Philadelphia 76ers. At full strength, Embiid is a top 3 player in the NBA, finishing top 2 in MVP voting 4 straight years and winning it once. But his health is such a huge red flag that it's impossible to put him in the top 10 right now. He could easily storm back this season and reclaim a top spot, or he could sink even further down the list if his knees can't hold up. For now, he's a wait-and-see case. Cracking the top 10, we have Kevin Durant of the Phoenix Suns. Durant's stats still look like vintage KD, 27 points per game on 53% shooting and 43% from 3, but his run in Phoenix has been nothing short of disappointing, with ugly playoff exits and constant questions about whether he can still be the alpha on a contender. Durant's time in Phoenix was a disaster, with the Suns failing to win a single playoff series while he was there. Now, joining a more stable Rockets team that just finished near the top of the West, He should have less pressure on his shoulders while still being the same elite scorer he's always been. At number 9, we've got Tyrese Haliburton of the Indiana Pacers. When you prove you can lead a team all the way to the finals, that automatically bumps you up lists like this. Haliburton's clutch moments, unselfish playmaking, and winning mindset land him in the top 10 for now. The Achilles tear he suffered in Game 7 of the finals could slow him down moving forward, but he still deserves credit for the way he carried his team on that playoff run. At number 8, we have Stephen Curry of the Golden State Warriors. Curry is still elite and can take over any game when he's hot, but the reality is he's finally starting to decline. His once unstoppable shooting isn't as consistent anymore, and averaging 24.5 points a night shows he's slipping closer to mortal levels compared to his peak. Shooting 45% from the field and 39% from 3 is still great, but it's not the vintage Steph Curry we're used to. And before Jimmy Butler arrived last season, the Warriors looked like a team that might actually miss the playoffs completely. At number 7, we've got Jalen Brunson of the New York Knicks. Brunson doesn't have the size or freak athleticism of the league's top point guards, but his fundamentals are ridiculous. His body control is elite, his footwork is flawless, and he's an efficient scorer at all 3 levels. He draws fouls like a vet, creates space with craft instead of raw speed, and forces defenses to respect him every possession. He just led the Knicks to their first conference finals in 25 years, and he's clearly aiming even higher. At number 6, we have Anthony Edwards of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Edwards has officially taken the crown as the best shooting guard in the league, and he's not letting it go. He's dragged the Wolves to back-to-back conference finals, lives for big matchups, and plays like someone who believes the whole NBA already belongs to him. He thrives in the biggest moments. Edwards is a fearless competitor who can score at all 3 levels, and he's even turned himself into one of the league's top high-volume three-point shooters, proving he's still getting better every year. At number 5, we have Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics. Tatum has been one of the league's best scorers and the face of an elite team for 6 years. He's already an NBA champion, and last season he showed real growth as a playmaker to balance out his scoring. But with a torn Achilles set to keep him out all year, Boston basically has no choice but to punt the season and wait for his return in 2026. At number 4, we've got Luka Doncic of the Dallas Mavericks. This is officially Luka's team now, and even in what people called a down year, his numbers were still better than almost everyone else in the league. He's a walking triple-double who casually drops 30 points a night, with passing vision that ranks among the greatest ever. The only real knock on him is conditioning. If he gets in better shape, he's capable of carrying Dallas through the gauntlet of the Western Conference. At number 3, we've got Giannis Antetokounmpo of the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis is the player the entire league is watching right now because his future in Milwaukee looks shaky. The 2-time MVP has been at the center of trade rumors all summer, and while both he and the Bucks insist nothing is happening, everyone knows it depends on how this season plays out. Giannis is still one of the absolute best in the game, an elite help defender, an unstoppable force in the paint, an underrated passer, and a straight-up bully when he drives to the rim. At his peak, he can go toe-to-toe with the 2 guys ranked ahead of him. At number 2, we have Nikola Jokic of the Denver Nuggets. In almost any other year, Jokic would take the number 1 spot without question, but after the season the guy at the top just had, he comes in second. Jokic is still an all-time offensive genius who's completely changed how the center,